What's happening, everyone? In this Lightroom tutorial, I'm going to be giving you a 15-minute crash course to teach you everything you need to know about Lightroom so you can start using it right now. Daniel here, founder of the DJB Photography School. Now, before we get started on this Lightroom tutorial, this crash course that I'm going to give you in using Lightroom, I wanted to first talk to you about why I think you should be using Lightroom if you're not already. So, as you know, Lightroom will cost you at the moment about $10 US per month if you're in the United States. If you're in Australia, I think it's about $14 Australian per month at the moment, and you actually will get Lightroom and Photoshop to use on that particular plan. You can buy Lightroom outright, I think, as a standalone piece of software. It's about $150 in Australia. But my suggestion is, I understand why people don't like subscription products, and I'm not the biggest fan of them either, but I think when it comes to Lightroom, I definitely make an exception. So there are a few reasons why I love Lightroom and why I think you should start using it if you can afford the $10 a month. First of all, let's talk about this $10 a month thing. So I know that it's very hard to justify a subscription product when it comes to software. But this is the way I look at it, especially for this particular piece of software. Lightroom is the industry standard when it comes to photographic development software in the world right now. So anything that back in the film days where you had to use chemicals to develop your negatives, anything that we could have done back then with film, you can now do in Lightroom on your computer with your fingertips in the matter of seconds. So it really is an amazing piece of software for developing your photographs. And one of the reasons why I suggest Lightroom over anything else is because we have the power of a big brand like Adobe who are developing this software. So how it works with digital photography these days is that we have a digital camera. When we take a photograph, all of the data from that photograph is stored on the sensor, and then the software that you use on your computer, so the raw file that you take on your camera, that raw file, that raw data is interpreted by the software, i.e. Lightroom, Capture One, whatever the other software is that is out there, the free software, which I don't really know about. But the way that that data is interpreted will determine how accurate your colors are when you look at your photograph. So Adobe have huge testing processes to be able to interpret this data accurately for your particular camera and your particular lens. And you can be sure and safe with Lightroom that what you're seeing on your screen, if it's calibrated correctly, is reasonably accurate when it comes to the interpretation of that raw data, the interpretation of that raw file that's being produced by your digital camera. So this is why I love Lightroom. We can do everything like a professional. We're not limited by the software in order to produce professional images. And we can do it all for $10 a month. So $10 a month, if you're thinking that's a lot of money, well, do you drink coffee every day? Do you go down and get a latte? Well, how about you just don't do that for 4 days in a month? And then you can afford Lightroom. Do you go out for breakfast on the weekends and spend $30 on smashed avocado? Don't do that for 1 day of the month. And now you can afford Adobe Lightroom and take your photography to the next level. Okay, so let's get started with this crash course. Join me in Lightroom right now. Okay, so welcome to Lightroom. Now, straight off the bat here, what I'm gonna do is simplify our entire environment here. Now, the point is, a lot of people, when you open up Lightroom, it's very confusing. There's a lot going on. I'm gonna simplify this for you. Just to interrupt myself, I forgot to mention that right now, there are 2 different versions of Lightroom, Lightroom Classic CC and Lightroom CC. I'm gonna call them Lightroom Classic and Lightroom CC. You want to be working on Lightroom Classic, not Lightroom CC. So Lightroom CC, Adobe have recently changed their naming conventions. Lightroom CC is a brand new application. It's very much just a cloud-based, simplified version. It's like using a mobile app. It's like basically using the iPad or the iPhone or Android, the Lightroom mobile on your desktop. Very cut down. You want to be using Lightroom Classic. That's the fully featured version of Lightroom that I'm going to be teaching. Let's start up the top. So you'll see here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 modules. You don't need all of these modules. I don't use all of them ever, but you don't need them all the time. So first thing is, let's right click on any one of these and let's untick Map, let's untick Book, let's untick Slideshow, let's untick Web. Now, why do we untick those things? Because we're not going to use them right now. You can actually do a number of things with Lightroom, like you can have a look at the geotags of your photographs if your camera supports it, which most of them don't, and you can plot where your photographs were taken on a map. You can make books, you can even make a website. We're not doing that. We're focusing on 2 things with Lightroom: managing your photographs. Number 1, that should have been managing your photographs and developing your photographs. I'm going to leave the print module there, but that's because we may use it it's the most likely to be the 3rd thing we're going to use here. So library module, everything that is associated with importing, copying, managing your photographs is done in the library module. Anything that is associated with developing your photographs, so post-production, changing the white balance, the exposure, all that kind of stuff is done in the develop module. And these are the 2 big modules that we use all the time. So library module, first thing, left-hand side, your catalog, collection, publishing services. I never use publishing services ever. Right click, untick publishing services. We've got catalog, folders, and collections. So when you import photographs into Lightroom, you're doing a few things. So when I put a memory card in my computer and I go import, I'll show you right now as I have one in here. You can see here I've got 3 selfies on my memory card. What I'm doing here is I am copying these 3 photographs from my memory card onto a particular location on my hard drive. I'm going to show you how we do this in a second. And at the same time, I'm going to add them to my Lightroom catalog. Now, a lot of confusion comes up here when people are trying to understand the Lightroom catalog. All you need to know is that your photographs are going to be copied into one place that you choose, and at the same time your Lightroom catalog is going to be aware of where they are. You're not copying the photographs into 2 places, i.e. wherever you choose on your hard drive, if it's an external drive or part of the internal drive, and into the catalog. They're not both there. All the raw files are stored in one place, and then your catalog is aware of them. So the catalog is just a way for you to manage these photographs. You'll see here under folders, we have no folders there, and that's because we haven't imported any photographs yet. The folders section, this just shows you what folders on your hard drive Lightroom is aware of. So as soon as you import photographs from a memory card into a particular folder on your hard drive, you'll see that folder, and that folder alone will pop up here. In collections, we only have smart collections. They're there by default. I personally never use them. What we do with collections is we add our favorite photographs from each particular session to a collection. And the point of the collection is to only showcase, to only put in the best photographs you've ever taken into a collection. Otherwise, you may as well just leave them in folders. So one thing here is, a lot of people before they were using Lightroom, if you have like, let's say you go and take some photographs at the park, you have 20 photographs, you may only like 7. In Lightroom, we don't make a copy of the 7 good photographs and put 7 raw files into a new folder. We use collections for that. So all of the management work is done within the Lightroom library module. Let me show you how we import photographs right now. Bottom left-hand corner, first make sure you're in the library module. We go import. Left-hand side, you'll see your memory card pop up. I'm not going to import all of these. I'm going to uncheck. I'm just going to take this first one here, tick it. You want to make sure, so this is how this import dialog module works. Left-hand side is your source, right-hand side here is your destination. So we're taking from the memory card, the Nikon D750, we're copying new photos only, that's what it selects by default, and we're choosing a destination here. So I'm going to put these into I'm going to put them in documents, and I'm going to make a temporary folder here called photographs. Now, what you need to do is you need to organize your photographs however you want to organize them. You might have them organized on a hard drive. Just for the purposes of this video, I'm going to put it in a temporary a temporary folder here called photographs. We'll choose that folder. And we want to do a couple of things here when we're importing. Build smart previews, don't import duplicates, and we want to make sure that they're all organized into one folder. And the reason for that is because often on your memory card, your photographs are just in like multiple subfolders. We don't want to copy that same complicated folder structure from the memory card to our hard drive. We want to simplify things and just put all of the memory, all of the raw files into one folder, one place. We want to make sure we know where they are. So why do we tick build smart previews? Build smart previews, there's a little option in the preferences that actually allows you to work from a smart preview, and it's actually better for performance reasons. Lightroom will just work faster when you have smart previews and allow you to edit your photographs more quickly. And especially if your photographs are stored on an external drive, it actually means that you can disconnect that external drive and still edit the photographs because you have that smart preview. So let's go ahead now, and we know exactly what's happening here. From the memory card, one photograph, copying into our new folder here called photographs. Again, you need to organize your photograph folder structure however you like to do it. Tick smart previews, and bottom right hand corner, import. Now you'll see that a few things are happening here. It's copying and importing, then building the smart previews. You saw that happen. And now you see in the catalog, we have one photograph. We have these folders. We have our main photographs folder here. So this is the only folder that the Lightroom catalog is currently aware of. So now I'm going to show you how, let's open this photograph, have a look at it. Terrible selfie. Now what we want to do is, let's say that we had, actually, you know what? I'm going to re-import those other photos into the same place so I can demonstrate collections for you. Now it's going to just copy and import, building smart previews. Okay, so now we have 3 different selfies here, but you want to go to your photographs folder. Now let's say, for example, out of all of these 4 photographs here, I have one that I like, one that's my favorite selfie. I'm going to go to collections. I'm going to make a new collection, and I'm going to call this, now obviously you're going to want to give these more descriptive names depending on what you're photographing. Selfie Day 2018. And create that. Now you'll see here that there's nothing in this collection, and I need to add my favorite photographs to this collection. I know that this one's my favorite. I can see here that I don't really like these other ones. This is the best one for me, so I'm just going to drag this one into my collection. And now you can see here that in my collection I only have one photograph, but in my photographs folder on my hard drive there are 4 of them there, but I have my favorite one in my collection right here. Let me just go back. So now I have my favorite photograph. This looks a little bit dark, a little bit underexposed. So what do I want to do? I want to start developing my photograph. Let's click on the develop module. Now quick run over what you can see here. As soon as I change over to the develop module, you'll notice that my folders on the left-hand side here disappear. You can no longer see the folders or catalogs, but you can still see the collections. So if you need to go back to manage your photographs again, go back to the library module, and you'll see your catalog and folders come back, so you can add more photos to collections, remove things, go back and do some more management work. But if you want to do development work, click on the develop module, and now on the right hand side you can see we have all these options to start developing our photographs. So I'm going to just develop this one really quickly for you. You'll see here that we have the little thumbnail view. You can click here to zoom in and sort of drag the photograph around. I use that quite a bit. If you want to zoom in 3:1, you can do that. Zoom in very close. Let's go back out to 1:1 or fit. Now, history on the left hand side, every single change that you make will come up here. So watch this. I'm going to, on the right hand side, I'm under my basic adjustments. I'm going to increase the exposure. And you'll see here on my history, exposure plus 1.6. So at any point in time, I can step back because these are non-destructive edits, non-destructive development work. At any point in time, you can come back to the original raw file, how you had it. So let's go back. I have increased my exposure. Now, I just want to make something clear here. On the right-hand side, look for this basic thing here, okay? When you can see that basic thing, you know that you're in what's called the global adjustment. So any change that I make here is going to change the entire image, and This means as opposed to local adjustments, which are these little options here. So we've got spot removal, red eye reduction, etc., the adjustment brush. So when you click any one of these tools, it's going to push down the basic tab so that you can see the particular tool. Particularly with the adjustment brush, it looks very similar to the global adjustments. You want to make sure that you can always see this basic thing if you're trying to make global adjustments. Now, I'm going to, my next thing is, I'm going to reframe this image a little bit. So I'm going to click on the cropping tool. You can see this little square here. And I'm just going to put my head right in the middle, and I'm going to adjust the framing so that my eyes are on the third line. I'm going to take the white balance here. We're going to warm this image up just a touch. And what else can I do here? Let's scroll down. We can take a bit of clarity. So clarity is also known as mid-tone sharpness. This adds a bit of punch to your images. You don't want to go too far with this because you look over photoshopped. Keep it authentic. I always just add a little bit, plus 20, just a little bit of punch, a little bit of contrast. Contrast here, obviously different to clarity. Again, to fully explain this, you really need to just try it yourself on your own images. But basically what you'll find is that contrast will make an image less flat. Clarity will just bring out the edges in an image. So if you want to sort of, you'll notice here the wrinkles on my forehead are a bit more defined now. If I go on the negative with clarity, it gets all dreamy like and Days of Our Lives like. So let's scroll down here. You can see you have a lot of different things that you can do here to each particular image. I don't have time for that in this particular video, but what you can do is experiment with these things on your own photographs. So the last thing is, now that we're happy with this photograph, we want to share this photograph with the world. How do we actually get it out of Lightroom? How do we take our raw file and save it and export it? Well, this is very easy. We do this using the export module, and there's two ways to get to it. You can click on File, Export, and this will export anything that you have currently selected, or right click, Export, Export. Now, once you're in this particular module, you have a few options here. First of all, I always like to change my default to export to specific location, and you want to choose a place where you want your image to go. So this location obviously depends on what you're about to do with it. If I'm going to share something on Instagram, I usually put this in my iCloud drive so I can download it on my phone and upload it to Instagram. But if you're just sending it to email to someone, to upload to your website, then you may want to put it in a different location, and keep in mind that your exports, you actually don't have to keep them once they've served their particular purpose, okay? So if you're putting it on Instagram, it's on Instagram, you can delete this export file. So you can kind of put it in a temporary location, but if you're exporting it for a client or something like that, you may want to put them in a high-res exports folder, whatever it is. Think of a way to manage your exports in appropriate ways, depending on what you're using them for. So the reason why I'm saying that you can delete your exports is because if you need another copy of the image you just exported, you can literally come back into Lightroom, right click, export it again, and use it for its particular purpose. So when we scroll down here, I always give my exports a particular name. So custom name hyphen sequence. I might just call this Daniel selfie and -1 because there's only one here that I'm exporting. Let's go down to file settings. Always use sRGB unless you're printing to a very particular lab. They may ask you for a different color space embedded into the file. Choose your quality of the JPEG file. So again, this depends on the particular purpose for your export. If you're uploading it to social media, leave it on 100. And you want to resize this for your particular purpose as well. So if you're uploading something to Instagram or you're emailing to someone, you don't want to give them a full 24 megapixel 100 quality file. You want to resize that to something that's appropriate. For social media, 1500 pixels on the longest edge. That means if your photograph is landscape, then the longest edge is going to be horizontal. If it's a portrait, like vertical orientation, then the longest edge is going to be the vertical one. So you want to make sure that that is resized, and the reason we do that is just to decrease the overall file size so that we're not emailing or uploading giant images that are going to be downsized anyway. So once you've done that, simply click export, and you'll see that in the top left hand corner, exporting, and your file is going to be in the location that you have chosen. So where do we go from here? So now it's your job to basically import all of your photographs into Lightroom and let Lightroom do all of the management work for you. One of the biggest reasons we use Lightroom is because of the library module and the management side of things. So it's very easy to keep track of everything, organize things, and also it's very easy to go from the management side to the development side, so you can quickly develop an image and export it whenever you need to. Now you may be at a point where you have 30,000 images that you've already taken before you discovered Lightroom. And if that's the case, you've got a bit of a task on your hands. I had about 40,000 images back in 2006 when Lightroom came out. I imported them all into Lightroom, organized them all neatly into my particular folders on my external hard drive, created collections from my favorite photographs from each particular event. That event meaning it could have been somewhere that I traveled to, a birthday party, some family birthday, or whatever it was that I was photographing. You need to go in here and start organizing your photographs, everything that you already have. So organize them neatly in folders. The folders contain all of your raw files, remember. The collections that you make are in relation to those particular events, and the collections only store the best of. So just remember that. Or if you've just got a brand new digital camera, then you can start with a beautiful clean slate here with Lightroom. Just start creating some folders to manage your upcoming photography sessions, and that can be anything. If you decide to go down to the beach this weekend, go into this photographs folder, create a new folder called, let's say it's the month of February. You can make a new folder in there called February and then call it Beach Day, February 24, whatever it is. Put all of your raw files in there, go through, pick out your favorites, put your favorites into your collection, develop your favorites, and that's how we use Lightroom. That's the fundamentals of it. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you want more photography tutorials, please subscribe. If you have any questions, write a comment and give it a like. If you think that if I've helped you out here, give it a like. And I'll make some more for you guys very soon. Thanks very much.